I am unalterably opposed to settling for good enough. I'm going to go hard at what I do want and stick up for my beliefs and my boundaries. That fear of other people's opinion often is what holds us back, really the number one constrictor of human potential. It's the fear of other people's opinion. When you just try even like 10% harder than the average person, the outcomes are not linear, they're exponential.
All right. Hi, Terry. I'm so glad to have you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Me and Terry go, I want to say way back. It's been 5 years, but it feels like a few decades just because I've had 2 kids since then. I've moved to multiple cities, and Terry's just such a mentor for me. So I'm so grateful you're here today for my community. Terry, I want to take a step back and have people understand your career journey, because right now you're an entrepreneur, you're a speaker, a storyteller. I want you to take us back a little bit of how you started your career and how did you, like, what path did you want to go down?
Yeah, let's talk about that. I started my career at Radio Shack, selling cell phones at Radio Shack after business school, because I did not prepare for my career whatsoever. So that's how it started. And eventually I got like a real-ish job doing marketing here in New York City. And I really took to digital marketing back then because I was doing trade show marketing, email marketing, all this stuff. And like what I liked about digital marketing, this is like in 2007, is how measurable it was. Like you could just prove your worth very easily. And it wasn't just like about who was like really good at sucking up or sounding smart. It was like just looking at the numbers. So I was there and then got laid off. So I was like, okay, great. I have no job now, but I have this desire to go deeper into digital marketing. So I had like $1,000 to my name. And for some reason, instead of paying my rent, I signed up for this digital marketing course at NYU where I learned how to do paid search marketing. So after 5 months, I'm behind on my rent, my electricity's turned off, my internet's turned off, like everything's not going too well. And then I got a job making 6 figures at Adobe. So I was like, all right, that worked, right? That gamble on myself worked. And luckily my landlord didn't kick me out. But it's funny because like we think like we have these moments in our life or our career where it's like, okay, everything's better now. And then immediately I realized, no, you're still going through it, because my manager's like, hey, now you got to come to Utah for 3 weeks of training, put everything on your credit card and we'll pay you back. And I'm like, that can't happen. So anyways, that ended up working out. I was at Adobe for about 3 years and then left to go to an agency. And then when I was there, I got recruited to work at Facebook. And I was there for a while on their e-commerce team, supporting brands like BarkBox, Bonobos, like mostly and Warby Parker, like e-commerce teams. Left there in 2015, and we'll get into how that happened later, and then started my own business as a consultant, primarily a digital marketing consultant. And the way that I grew that business was just like real grassroots. I would go anywhere in New York City that would let me do free talks for their audience. So it could be libraries, it could be co-working spaces, whatever it is. And that is how I grew my business, just speaking and getting clients that way. But after a while, I got a little sick of talking about digital marketing. I was like, yeah, I get it, right? So I started helping other entrepreneurs build their business using the tactics that worked for me as well. And that led to me just meeting a whole different like plethora of people. I started writing for entrepreneur.com and also started doing more public speaking at like South by Southwest, Amazon, Google, like all the things. And so then I actually had 4 kids during that time too. So there's a lot going on. But more recently, getting more into writing, public speaking, and as well as brand deals where I help all my partners get in front of their target audience. So
Yeah.
I guess that's a lot, and that's about it.
It's a lot, but it's very telling because it just goes to show that where you think your path might go, it's going to meander and turn in different ways. But it sounds like you were obviously taking risks and really leaning into, yourself. And I think a lot of professionals, though, struggle with that of like who they are in their brand. So that's my question for you is like, if we can go back in time to that point where you really started building your brand and what you're good at, I guess, do you have any advice for someone a little early on in their career and how to start developing that brand, that strength, and like that presence?
Yeah, this is going to be a interesting answer because I would recommend people not to do what I did initially. Because even when I was on Good Morning America, Wall Street Journal, like all these things, I was not being my true authentic self. I was playing a character, someone I thought would be likable by my audience. And like I was giving out good information, obviously, stuff like that. But it was almost soul sucking because it's like I was getting rewarded for being someone that I wasn't. So what I would ask anyone
Can I ask what wasn't authentic?
A few things. One is I came off as way more like affable than I actually am in public and in real life. Like I'm just kind of a jerk sometimes, like a sarcastic person, not like a mean person, but
Yeah.
like I would hold back those things. And then beyond that, and I know we'll get into this more, like there was a lot of tragedy going on in my life that people
Yeah.
that were not aware of. So like I'm hiding all this pain that I'm in, showing up as this guy like on TV or whatever, smiling, hey everyone, like here's how you do some stuff. When really in the background, like things were just like not well emotionally at times, like financially doing good enough, but emotionally like going through it. So my advice for anyone building their brand is like get clear on who you are first. Get super clear on who you are, your identity, right? Like what lights you up, what are your ethics, your values, your morals, so on and so forth. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I went through that journey myself. I did a few exercises like the Ikigai thing. You probably heard of that before. I didn't do any of the strength finders because those all seem kind of silly to me for whatever reason. No shade to anyone who likes them. But that's when I was like, no, I got to show up as the true version of myself. And the true version of myself has been through some shit. And I think that alone is just admirable to some people who just need someone to look up to and say, okay, if that guy still achieved all this while going through that, well, heck, maybe I can too. So that's the first time I actually felt comfortable showing as the full version of myself.
Yeah. I do want to go back to that a little bit because you went through a lot of adversity just throughout your career, throughout your life. And there's a lot of people going through a lot of shit, and whether it's layoffs or severe mental health or loss. Can you talk a little bit about how you dug deep in those moments and how you literally like woke up and kept moving forward? Like what was your driver to move forward? Such a challenging time.
Yeah, and this is going to be another time when I say like, don't do it the way I did initially. Do it the way that I'm going to talk about afterwards. But I mean, a few things happened. So first of all, I battled alcoholism for about 10 years, which is why I got laid off from Facebook. And fortunately, went to rehab and haven't had a drop in 10 years and have no desire to. But that alone is something.
By the way, congrats for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that alone was a big reset. But really the most challenging thing I had to get through was the death of my son, which happened about 2 years into me starting my business. And I just didn't want to talk about it because everyone who knew about it, like the way they look at you, like, are you okay? No, really, are you okay? I was like, look, I'm just trying to get through the day. Like, I don't want to have this conversation. So I didn't talk about it. And the way that I, if you want to call it dealing with it, was just to get super, super, super busy with work. Like just going hard with work and just trying to like distract myself. And then I got really into fitness too. I started doing CrossFit just to, again, like burn off some of that energy, which was probably just like some kind of pain that was not being dealt with properly. So don't do that. And what I did do eventually was just come to grips with the fact like, hey, this is your reality. Right? This is something you've been through. And if you truly want to honor your son, you got to talk about it, right? If you truly want to honor yourself, then you have to deal with it constructively, not skip the phase where you finally get your arms around it. So what I would say for anyone going through some stuff is like, just acknowledge it. Like, this is a real thing. You know, you can't like motivate your way out of it. Like there is something going on. And unfortunately, you can't change what happened, but you have full control over everything that happens next. So just realize you do have some agency left in the world. And for me, you could have told me like during any of these instances, like, hey, it's all over. You're like, I'm screwed, so on and so forth. And then X years later, like I'm on a TV show. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why I share these stories now, because I want people to understand that they can get these transformations as well.
Yeah. And you can go through that really tough time. Like you said, sometimes what's going to help you move through it is talking about it and just being true to what's going on. It's not always easy to do though. I want to kind of pivot into rejection a little bit, because as obviously you're just like a high achiever, I'm the same way. You want to take on everything, do everything, but in the midst of that path, there's people saying no to you and there's rejection. And in this market right now, what I'm seeing is this exorbitant amount of layoffs and rejection, and people are really taking it to heart. So I'm curious of your approach to handling rejection, whether it's a brand deal, a show saying no to you, like how do you navigate that?
It's interesting because now I don't really think about it too much. I'm just like, oh, okay. And I don't mean to be dismissive, but I just really am like, okay, on to the next, right? So, but I'll talk about a real thing, and that should give more insight than my short answer. So X years ago, I wanted to speak at this event. It's called Social Media Week. You probably guessed the theme of it. And they said no. And I'm like, oh, that's not what I want to hear.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, I got an idea. I went back to the organizers. I said, hey, look, on your website, you have like all these write-ups from your previous sessions. Can I attend and just do a write-up of your keynotes? By the way, I'd never written an article in my life when I volunteered to do this. And they're like, sure. So they said, sure. So I'm at this event. I'm interviewing all these like keynote speakers, getting their tips on how to get on stage. And as a result of doing that, I got my first article ever published online, and that turned into a career. But beyond that, I formed such a deep relationship with the organizers that the next year I delivered a keynote both in New York City and in Los Angeles. So to answer your question, how do I deal with rejection? I think, okay, well, that was the first offer. Now, what can I do with this? If there is some wiggle room, but if not, I don't let that rejection have an impact on my sense of self-worth, because the value of my knowledge, my expertise, my perspective has not changed. It's just not in the right context. So anyone who's going through that, just realize that if you want to get rewarded for your talent, it's not that it's you. It's just like you have to get in the right context, and therefore you will get that outcome you're looking for.
Yeah. That's fascinating. It's really tough in that moment to have that mindset, but it's like a habit for your mind, right? You really have to train yourself that this isn't personal and I'm going to move forward.
It is. And like, I'll be clearer. Like, I still get annoyed. I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like, but it's like that sucks just doesn't last for weeks. It's just like, all right, this sucks. Now I'm going to go make a sandwich. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. Or I'll just go hard. I'll be like, okay, cool. This one thing turned me down. I'm going to go apply for 5 more just like it. You know what I mean? So it's like, what can I learn from this? Like, maybe they gave me some feedback, and or like, I'm just going to use it as fuel going forward. But for anyone in the job market, I do want to double click on that. You should probably just start your own business if you can. Just start doing some consulting on the side. Like, if you have a skill that a company will pay you for, guess what? They'll still pay you for it, even if you're not like working for them, right? So realize again, like, don't let that talent go to waste while you're waiting for the next opportunity. You can go out there and pursue your own business as well.
Yeah, it's so valuable, and it's true. That's how I got my foot in the door at L'Oreal. I took a consulting role and then built it from there and grew for 7 years. But I think a lot of people think full-time is the only opportunity. And what I like that you did was you took a no and said, I'm going to still get in the room, but it's going to look different. And I think we can all take that advice and say, there's going to be a door slammed on you and said, no, you can't have this role, but how can you still get in that room, into that company, and at least get in and then grow from there?
Yeah. And it's like, you have to pretend like there's someone else who's like your twin, who has the exact same skills as you, and think to yourself, how would I outcompete that person? Like, how could I level up? Like, if I was just like competing against my twin or whatever, my identical twin, and just go a level deeper, try a little harder, like double click a little bit more than you normally would. Because when you just try even like 10% harder than the average person, the outcomes are not linear, they're exponential. And think about it yourself. Like, when you have a meeting with someone, the first person to like send a calendar invite, they're like, wow, she's a high performer. It's like, oh, that took her 3 seconds, right? But it's like that 10% more effort, the rewards are exponential.
It's so true when you put it in perspective of it doesn't have to be 100%. One of your newsletters recently was about that extra 1%. And that was like a game changer for me too, because it's like sometimes it's just that little bit more that's going to make a huge impact on someone's career. Speaking of skills, I want to get into skills a little bit, because you have this background in digital marketing, but again, you've pivoted into a true like business owner, entrepreneur, storyteller. What do you think is like the skill of the future, or the skill that set you apart, that's going to really help the generations of like Gen Z and even millennials that are trying to find their footpath to just like really grow and push forward?
I would say this. I'm going to have an asterisk first, because anytime I give advice, I'm always like, look, you think this over first, right? Don't just like take my advice verbatim, because one time this guy's talking to me, he's like, oh, I'm trying to get a job. And I was like, you should probably move to New York City. And then like 3 weeks later, he's like, okay, I'm in New York City. What should I do next? I'm like, go back, bro. Like I didn't mean like now without a plan. So I think the skill of the future is a combination of curiosity and grit, because we don't know how things are going to change, right? Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say like, like math or like whatever, like social media, because you don't know how things are going to change. But if you can adapt to them and actually be eager to learn more about these new changes, then you'll be in a good spot. But like the people that you hear saying stuff like, I don't know if I believe in AI, it's like they're effed. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's not something to believe in. It's like there's a mountain there. It's like, oh, I don't believe in that mountain. It's like, bro, the mountain is there. If you want to ignore it because of whatever reason, that's on you. But we're around the same age. Remember like when computers like kind of first came out and some people couldn't figure out how to use a mouse? If you're not using AI right now, you're that person just trying to click around like, what's a window? Like, so. Yeah. So yeah, again, it's like it's grit and curiosity, I would say. And then again, going back to your identity, because I've interviewed so many this famous, celebrities and everything, and their path always follows the same trajectory. They
Mhm.
got very clear on who they are, their identity, right? What lights them up, what makes them up, so on and so forth. After that, they're like, okay, well, based on that, what I want to do, right? That's their vision, right? So identity and then vision, I want to be this person. Next step is your lifestyle, your rituals. How can I actually live the lifestyle of this person? And then from there, you're on your merry way. So it's just like identity, vision, rituals. If you have all those aligned, you're in a good spot. But again, if you don't actually sit in the confusion long enough to really understand your own identity, you can have a good vision and great rituals, but you still might feel like, this ain't the life I actually want to live.
Yeah.
Because again, you did not sit in the confusion long enough to find that clarity.
Yeah. Well, that's such a good one. I think the most confusing moments have been the best moments because that actually triggers you to do something different and change. Or there's people that sit in that. But for people like us, I think it really triggers me to think, okay, something doesn't feel right. I'm confused. I need clarity. I need to realign and lean into a space that feels better. And this can happen a lot in jobs for professionals. When you get to that uncomfortable spot, like this obviously happened with you in your background, there was that moment where you switched into, I'm going to do my own thing because something, doesn't feel right. So I think that's a lot of self-awareness too.
No, it is. But the thing is, like, people that are narrow minded, I understand why they are. It's so much easier just to be stuck in this one
It
lane. Like,
is.
nope, this is it. This is the way I see the world. I don't believe in AI or any of this stuff. It's like whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah, like if you do that, you're gonna wake up a year from now, 10 years from now, maybe right now, and almost feel guilty sometimes that you've accomplished stuff. Like you have a nice home, you have things, but you're like, I just still don't feel right. It's because
Yeah.
again, you didn't do that deep work on a continual basis to just get clear on who you are, because your vision might change, and that's okay. Like people feel like, why am I so ungrateful? I have this great job. It's like when you were 25 you wanted this, but guess what, now you're 40 and it kind of sucks. That's okay. Like just go do something else so you can have the freedom that you're looking for.
Yeah. Talking more about leaning into identity and vision, you've created kind of this whole program around resilience and being savage. How did that idea come about and what is it?
Yeah, I was talking to my book mentor. His name is Bruce Feiler, best-selling author, amazing guy. And we're talking about my next book, and he's like, I'm listening to what you're saying, but like after everything you've been through in your life, like all the trials and tribulations, but also everything you've accomplished, like you've won battles in arenas that some people never get a chance to set a foot in. Like, he's like, how do you keep going? And I was like, I don't know, man. It's like when I'm at the gym, like I'm just a fucking savage. And he's like, that's it. He's like, that's got to be the brand, and show people how they can get through tough stuff, but still live life with integrity, with purpose, and be meaningful to those around them. So it's really for people who are just saying, like, you know what? Like, I am unalterably opposed to settling for good enough, and giving them the voice and the identity to say, like, you know what? No, I'm putting my foot down. This is not what I want for myself. I'm going to go hard at what I do want and stick up for my beliefs and my boundaries. And in my program, I walk through, again, that 3-step process, how to do that. But it's just really giving yourself the freedom to do what you want, but doing so with intention and doing so with integrity.
How do you think that can show up for someone that is not an entrepreneur yet and in the corporate world? And I hate saying the word corporate, honestly, because I think we're beyond that now.
Yeah.
But, a company, they're at a company and maybe they can't show up and be as savage as they want. So what is your advice for someone who is at a company, but they need to tap more into just being savage? Like, what's that balance?
I think it's important to realize, like, it's not always like some grand gesture, right? It's not like, like some tirade on LinkedIn or whatever, something like that. It's like, it's in those moments when you're like, look, I am really busy working on a project, but there's this team meeting that people want me to go to. It's saying, look, it's you being able to stand up for yourself and say, look, I can't go to this team meeting because I got other stuff to do. I would love to meet with you, but I have to work. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that where you're just standing up for yourself more. Or maybe, again, you're at work and like you see your manager, but you really want to meet their manager, but you're afraid to ask. It's saying, like, you know what? No, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be unapologetic. I'm just going to go reach out to my manager's manager and say, I would like to talk with you as well. Again, it's not always like these bold gestures or whatever. It's just like the little things in those moments where there's something in your brain saying, oh, I'm scared, like, don't do it. It's saying, like, no, F that, I'm going to, because I deserve this. And there's going to be some great outcomes if I do.
Yeah. And I like how you look at it as those super small moments. I always think back to when I was at L'Oreal and I would just say hi to a leader because I really believed in that authentic connection. And those simple, small moments grew and actually developed and had me stand out just because I said hi. It's like a very simple, small thing.
Yeah. Well, a little quick on that because that fear, right? That fear of other people's opinion often is what
Yeah.
holds us back. And this guy, Dr. Michael Gervais, he's a high performance psychologist. He said like that's really the number one constrictor of human potential. It's the fear of other people's opinion.
Yeah.
So when you're more savage, you're like, man, F that. Like if I take a loss, I'll be okay. I've taken other losses. But if you're not like, in that mindset, you're like, oh, what are you gonna think? And then you miss out on stuff.
I need a shirt for this to wear it every day to remind myself, and then also like a poster and all of it. And then like last question I want to ask, you've really developed such not an only authentic but a really important kind of community around you. So for professionals out there that networking, they get held back because they're nervous or what's someone going to think, what's your approach? What's your advice for really building like an authentic network?
I'll give a few answers, and hopefully one of them's good. So we're gonna roll the dice here and see. I'll talk about how I became involved with Entrepreneur Magazine. I'll do that very quickly. So this is like X years ago. I run into Jason Pfeiffer, who's the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine, when we're both taking our kids to like some free gym class here in Brooklyn. And I met him there. I was like, holy cow, like, you're the guy. So we kept in touch, or I got his contact information. And like the very next day, I went to the Entrepreneur website and found like all these ways they could optimize it to make more money. I sent him a video saying like, hey, here's this thing. A week later, he invited me to meet with the executive leadership team, and they offered me a role as a contractor, essentially helping them with some tasks. So the moral of the story here is like, for the way I like to network is to give first. Be very specific about how I can help someone. These are high value people. It's not like some random person on LinkedIn. High value people. I won't say, how can I help you? Because that puts the burden on them. I will just actually proactively help them. And it could be a small thing like, hey, Britt, by the way, there's a typo on your website or something like that. But giving first, my buddy Mo Bunnell actually wrote a book about that, is the way that I like growing my network. Outside of that, it's just nurturing your network. Because so many people, they grow their network and they never say shit to them. But it's like, if you just like check in with people once in a while, that's beneficial. And then one of the best things you can do sometimes is help them grow their network. If you know someone else they should be talking to, that alone makes you powerful, right? Because you're a connector. So I would say if you are networking, first of all, like I gave 2 examples right now, but if you're at a networking event, don't do this. Don't say, hey, Britt, what do you do? Say, hey, Britt, what do you do for fun? Because if you ask that question, you're automatically in a good mood, meaning you, Britt, and I can find a moment of relevance. If you're like, I like dancing. Oh, gosh, actually, I'm a horrible dancer. Like, how do people loosen up when they're dancing, right? So if you ever go to a networking event, just ask that question, what do you do for fun? And then beyond that, once you meet someone, try to introduce them to somebody else too. And that way you become the most popular person.
This is gold. And I wish I had this years ago, but that starting with help first is a game changer. And it's just like, what is your value that can help you stand out, and use that? I love that so much. Oh man, I wish I had that 10 years ago, but it's okay. I'll hang on to it now. Terry, thank you so much for being here. Your, again, just advice and insight on not only the professional space, but just life is amazing. And I just want to give you a shout out, like, where can people find you, whether it's a stage, website, how can they keep following you?
Yeah, sure thing. My website is just terryrice.co, not com.co. I'm on LinkedIn every day posting something. So if you Google me, you'll find me there, or search on LinkedIn. And my Instagram is at It's Terry Rice. But Britt, on your end, like, you are very necessary. I am so glad you have this platform now because, again, I've known you for years and I've been the benefit of your advice and your thoughts and your perspective. But now I'm glad you're sharing with a larger audience. So this is incredible. And thanks for letting me join in here.
Thanks, Terry. You've always inspired me along the way when we started talking on podcasts years ago. So it's been something, on my vision board forever. So thank you so much, Terry. We really appreciate you, and we're going to keep following you.